Most say that it takes 7 to 20 times for someone to see an ad before making a purchase. That's because those people suck at marketing. There are 5 common lies about marketing that kill sales growth. And once you master the 5 associated truths, you'll convince prospective customers the first time they see your message. I've used these 5 truths to grow 2 businesses to over $100 million in sales each. I've also used them to design a training program that helped others start businesses with an estimated $10 billion in sales. My first and only job out of college was in investment banking, but I ended up quitting that after 7 months because I couldn't stand working for anyone else. And so I ended up starting a business in 2009 selling high-end health supplements online, other people's brands. I scaled that business from nothing to $2 million in sales in 2 years, which felt awesome until I checked my American Express bill. There was $100,000 on there that I didn't know how I was going to pay for because I was driving all of this traffic, but I wasn't producing any profit. And so I had to figure something out. So the turning point for me was I attended an event called Traffic and Conversion Summit by Ryan Deiss and Perry Belcher in Austin. It was just packed in there. And that was my early exposure back in 2010, I believe, to the other side of marketing, conversion optimization, and using the psychology of marketing to produce sales immediately, not hoping that if you just put your product in front of people enough, eventually they'll hopefully buy. It's engineering an entire sales funnel and using words to convince strangers to give you money. If I had to present my message to every prospect 7 to 20 times, none of my businesses would have scaled, and I'd also be broke. Instead, I built businesses with over $450 million in sales and tens of millions of dollars in profit. And it was only possible because of this side of marketing and avoiding these 5 lies you're about to learn. Lie number 1, target a specific niche. So years ago, I was talking with an older couple who sold a great product. People were happy buying it, and they absolutely dominated that market. They were number 1 on Amazon with multiple listings, number 1 on Google with multiple listings. The entire online world for this product, they completely dominated. Highest quality product, best reviews, most sales. The only problem was nobody wanted to buy the product. They sold pop guns, those little wooden guns with a little thing that shoots out the end. And it was a little toy thing that nobody wanted to really buy anymore. The entire market for that product online was about 30 grand a month. And so it didn't matter what they did at that point with that product, it was never going to grow. They can't convince more people to buy those things. That's a very hard job to do. Much easier just to go after a different product. I recommend going after the biggest market possible. Don't look at some tiny little niche that these big companies were so nice to leave for you to pick off. Go after a big market. Warren Buffett figured this out with investing. Way back in the day, he did what he called the cigar butt approach to investing, meaning that, you're walking along, you see some soggy little cigar, you pick it up, you take one puff out of there. That was the equivalent kind of investing. He would find some little tiny company, terrible business, nothing going well with it, but it was so cheap that he can make a little bit of money, then move on and find the next one, make a little bit of money, move on, find the next one. The problem is you have to keep finding these things all the time. And so he eventually discovered, kind of with the help of Charlie Munger, that it's much better to go after companies that have a big potential to scale. That's how he ended up making a huge investment in Coca-Cola that he still owns today. And we've applied some of these lessons in my business, Life Boost Coffee, that we've scaled from nothing to over $50 million per year in sales. So in that business, we literally sell coffee, which is the most commoditized, one of the biggest markets in the world. It's the 3rd highest drank beverage. There's water, tea, then coffee. What we've done, though, is we came up with a new angle within that market, low-acid, stomach-friendly coffee. That allowed us to enter a big existing market where people are already buying this thing, but then come in with a new angle, because you can't just do the same thing as everyone else, you're going to lose. You have to have some new twist on it, but then initially that's going to attract a small segment of that market, but it gives you the potential as awareness and your marketing and your resources builds to keep expanding. You don't have to go find the next little cigar butt lying around. You don't become the world's greatest seller of pop guns and then crap, if I want to make more money, I have to go find a completely new product, completely new brand, start over all again. Instead, you can take the current product and just keep expanding it bigger and bigger and bigger, which is why even our business, $50+ million is nothing compared to where we think we can take this. We believe this business can be multiple hundreds of millions of dollars. So lie number 1, target a specific niche. The truth is to go after the biggest market possible. Lie number 2 is people's attention span is short. When we were doing a lot of launches for our e-commerce training program called Amazing Selling Machine that tens of thousands of people ended up signing up for, our video team especially one guy, would always tell me, Matt, this copy's so long. These videos, I basically would write and produce 4 videos that are each around 30 minutes each, which is 2 hours worth of video footage, which is basically, if you were to write it all out, like we scripted a lot of that stuff, it was the equivalent of like half a book every single time. And he'd be like, if we just did some shorter copy, more people would buy. Nobody wants to watch these long videos. So eventually I was like, no, you're wrong. I've read all the copy. Longer copy's better. That's what always works. People need a lot of convincing to buy this, $4,000 or $5,000 program, because it's going to be a big commitment once they join. So they have to be really involved and really bought in. But eventually I was like, you know what, forget it. Give it a try. We produced a 10-minute video and it did absolutely nothing. It was beautiful, had all the B-roll, had all the action shots, all that kind of stuff going on, perfect scripting, but it didn't do the job. Longer copy almost always works better. So the lie is that people's attention span is short, which is just not true. Some of the best podcasts in the world today, Huberman, Joe Rogan, the Acquired podcast, are all multiple hours long. And if you look at sort of a younger demographic, I'm sure there's people all over the demographic spectrum listening to those podcasts, but look at something even younger, like video games. Some of these kids will play this for 10 hours a day. Their attention span isn't short. You just have to hold their attention span longer, and the bar for doing that is higher than it used to be in the past. Right now, I'm working on building my personal YouTube, and I've been looking at some of the other people in the space. There's this guy named Simon Squibb. His number one video is 2 hours and 26 minutes long. It's not some 30-second YouTube clip. There's another branding guy that I came across. His number one video is 6 hours long. Another guy that teaches e-commerce stuff. He has an 11-hour course video, all one single video. People will pay attention and watch this stuff. You just got to make it interesting. So don't ever let anybody tell you that you got to have super short copy, because nobody's going to read the long stuff. They absolutely will. If you look at our main marketing page for our coffee business that we've driven over $100 million in sales through, it is super long. It just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. The trick is to include every possible fact and reason to buy. Don't be redundant. Don't just repeat stuff to make it long. Include every possible reason to buy. There's a mantra that's the more facts you tell, the more you sell. And that's never been more true than today. People have seen a lot of BS. And so rather than just making a few light claims and then being like, there's no way this is true, but if you back it up page after page, fact after fact, testimonial after testimonial, eventually they're going to be like, okay, these people can't be lying about all of this stuff. And so that's why I think longer copy almost works better today than in the past. Lie number 3, you need systems to scale. I've tried all the systems. I've tried RPM. I've tried big, hairy, audacious goals. I've done OKRs. I've done traction, EOS. I've done getting things done, all of this sort of stuff. None of it really matters. What does matter is keeping it as simple as possible. I had a friend years ago. He basically sold this tiny little tube of mole remover. You put on, you kind of scrape off, and it's supposed to get rid of moles. And so he basically bought that thing for $2, sold it for $40, and was doing about $500,000 a month in sales. One product, one funnel, one traffic source. Believe it or not, he was actually advertising it in Sky Mall magazine back in the day. So I think this was probably like 10 years ago or so. That is a good business. Red Bull did the same thing on a massive scale. They got to over $1 billion in sales with a small 8-ounce can. One product, one traffic source, which is basically just selling these things in retail stores. You don't need systems to scale. You need simplicity. One funnel, one product, one traffic source. That's exactly how we built my businesses that have gone over $100 million in sales. Amazing was built. One funnel, which was our video launches. One product, Amazing Selling Machine. We didn't even have any upsells. One traffic source, which was affiliates. That's how we built LifeBoost. One funnel, a basically long-form sales page advertising our core roast. So that business, a few products, but not many, a few products. One product essentially, and then one traffic source, which basically took us to the first year and a half, which was Facebook ads. Lie number 4 is you've got to hustle. When we were scaling LifeBoost early on, it was like watching paint dry. We would create a page, launch a few Facebook ads, and then wait for results. Tweak those ads, wait for results. Tweak the page, wait for results. It wasn't this nonstop grind and hustle and picking up the phone and driving around and whatever. What you want to be is more like a scientist, not like a commissioned salesperson. Hustling is not going to make something work and sort of make up for bad decisions. What you want to do instead is place experiments, place smart bets, wait for the results to come in rather than just forcing a bunch of other things to work. The faster you can experiment with that stuff, the better. But sometimes you just have to wait for the results to happen. The 5th and final lie is your product is everything. Jeff Bezos said, advertising is the price you pay for having an unremarkable product. Now, Jeff, the problem is that he built a technology platform business, not a consumer brand. If products such as Coca-Cola, Monster, Red Bull, Procter & Gamble, all the products they sell, Unilever, all the products they sell, and even Apple, if they didn't run advertising, they would be a fraction of what they are today, and probably we would have never heard from them. Advertising is the practice of associating the tangible, your product, with the intangible, the stuff people want. Your product, you want to associate it with what people desire most. If somebody wants to buy a Nike shirt and they're associating that with being an elite athlete like LeBron James, then that's going to make them more likely to buy the Nike shirt and to spend more money on it relative to another shirt that has a different little logo on there. Product is not everything. Profitable reach is. Your goal is to get advertising to pay for itself. If you can create a funnel in such a way that you get customers for free, then you're able to expand your reach. And that's what really matters. You can have the best product in the world, but people are not going to beat down your doors to find it unless you own a platform business like Costco and Walmart and Amazon. If they just offer the lowest prices, they said before that people will basically beat down your doors to find these low prices. If you're not in that business, you've got to advertise to associate the tangible with the intangible. And that's what ends up building a good, profitable business in the consumer brand space specifically. And just a little side note, Amazon, by the way, spends over $20 billion a year on advertising and is the largest advertiser in the world. So let's recap the 5 truths. Pick the biggest market possible. Give all the reasons to buy. The longer, the better. The more facts you tell, the more you sell. Simplicity over systems. Don't hustle. Experiment like a scientist. And profitable reach is everything. David Ogilvy, who built an $864 million marketing agency under his name, said, "Don't bunt. Aim out of the park. Aim for the company of immortals. Ignore the 5 lies and use the 5 truths to build the biggest, most impactful business possible."